Good evening everyone, my name is Corporal Flieger and today I am here to bring you a walkthrough over the rank 5 Russian tanks Weakspots, so that you will be more efficient in taking these guys out in War Thunder. So I'm gonna have a closer look at the IS-3, as you could see there on the screen. We'll have a look at maybe one or two of the T-54s just to get a quick grasp of what kind of weak spots they have. We'll definitely have a look at the IS-4M, probably just in brief go over the ISU-152, and then we'll look at the SU-122-54, and after that we'll have a look at the CSU-57-2. So yeah, let's start off with the IS-3. Let's bring up the armor layout, and since the last patch with the recent tweaks to armor values and armor effectiveness when it comes to an angle or angling the armor, this tank has really become a beast in the game, as well as pretty much the rest of the Russian tanks. And when facing this thing in a head-on duel, there's really not much you can do about it. You have a few weak spots. Previously you had the possibility to go for the lower glacis of the pike nose here, but since this thing is sloped at an angle of 55 degrees, this is not a good area for a shot. You shouldn't be aiming at this low glacis spot, because there's no ammo that will penetrate 250 or 245 millimeters of penetration at an angle of 55 degrees. So yeah, forget about that. And the same thing goes for the pike nose here on the sides. You have a substantial angling of the plate here, and well, you have this kind of area near the pike nose where the armor is a bit more flat, but it's still at a decent angle of 56 degrees, so that's a no-go zone for a shot. What you might be able to hit though, this thing does really have a few weak spots, and they're very few when facing this thing in a head-on duel, and that is the machine gun port up here. You can see that little ring there. If you hit that, the effective armor isn't all that thick. You see here it's about 121 millimeters, so if you hit that, the shot will go straight through. Otherwise, a good way of knocking out the tank will be to hit the barrel really, and hope to go Robin Hood on the IS-3's barrel really, and shoot the thing straight down the barrel, and knocking out the crew that way. You also have a shot trap here at the lower parts of the gun barrel. If you hit this sloping here, the shell will bounce straight down into the roof of this little plate here, and you can see here, if it's angled like this, the shot will penetrate like this at this kind of angle, and you only have an effective thickness at around 35 millimeters of armor, so basically any kind of shell will knock out this tank if you get that kind of lucky bounce. How about the gun barrel ring? Yeah, no sloping, 0 degree slope, and you have a 25 or 250 millimeters of armor. That might be a shot if you have an angle like this. If you hit that area, you will probably knock out the tank. Other than that, there's still 2 more weak spots that you can go for, and those are the hatches here for the commander and the gunner. Not really all that angle, and you have an effective thickness of roughly 200 millimeters of armor, and they're kind of hard to hit, but if you hit them, you might have a chance of penetrating, and if your shot has some kind of explosive filler in them, you will knock out the tank. But you really have to be a very good shot, and you probably will have to have a lot of luck as well in order to penetrate the tank and take it out. Do we have any other kind of weak spot here at the front? Yeah, you do have a small chance at knocking out the tank by hitting this bit here. It's not that angled, but it's still 200 and roughly 60 millimeters of armor that you need to penetrate. So that's a bad idea really, to try to knock out the tank by hitting that zone. Other than that, the tank does have a turret ring, but it's very hard to hit it. There's really no room for a shell to penetrate between the turret and the hull. So looking at the tank from the side, what I would go for if I wanted to knock out this tank is that people tend to go for the turret, but the turret is still very nicely sloped. You can see here you have an angle at 54 degrees, this area 53, this area 52 degrees, and if you look at the effective thickness of the armor, this is a no-go shot. You won't knock out the tank by hitting it in the side like this. If you hit the turret up here or the cupola up here, you might be able to knock out the tank, but I'm not sure. The tank is very well angled at the top here at the turret, so avoid firing at that. I would really go for a low hull shot, and I would avoid this bit of spaced armor up here, because this spaced armor is incredibly trollish. I've been firing at these bits with my Tiger. I've been firing with a mouse at the side of this thing, and even a Tiger 2 105, and I bounced. So don't think about it, just go for a sure shot and try to avoid firing at the track, because that will eat up a shot, and try just really to hit the tank between the dry wheels here. You should have a good chance at knocking out the tank. Don't fire all too low, just try to not hit these road wheels here, and just try to go for a clean shot at the side of the tank. What can you hit if you go for a shot like that? Well, you can hit the fuel tank, you can knock out the engine, you can hit some ammo stored down here, and you can even knock out a crew member or two. So really that is the best way of knocking out this tank, trying to aim straight below the cupola. So aim for the cupola and go low. That should knock out the tank. So looking at the tank from behind, you should be able to knock out the tank by hitting any kind of spot. I would prefer, if I had a clean shot at an IS-3 like this, I would go for the turret. Why? Well, you see here all the ammo is situated in the turret, and that's what you want to hit, because that will ignite the ammo fire and knock out the tank in one go, especially with the kind of caliber that you have on the guns at rank 5. So hitting the thing down here will just make the engine soak up a lot of the damage. You will probably damage a fuel tank and cause a fire by hitting the fuel tanks with some shrapnel. You might also disable the engine, transmission, but really the engine will eat up the shot, and the round will just end up getting stuck in the engine, and you won't kill the tank with one solid shot if you go for the engine, but you will render the tank immobile, so that's a good thing. So over to the T-54. The T-54 is a very small tank. It's not all that large, and this tank we're looking at here is the 1951 model, and it's kind of hard to knock out this thing really, unless you're firing a very high caliber shot using a big tank like a mouse or a Tiger. If you have tanks like those, aim for the upper glacis, just do it. Aim for the upper glacis, and you should get through this with no sweat. I've done that a lot, even since the last patch really. I've been sworn by these things in my mouse, and I've just gone for the upper hull, and since your mouse is so big, you have a shot like this from this kind of angle, and it doesn't matter if the sloping on the armor is 60 degrees, that will be negated by hitting the tank from above, and you should actually have a fair chance of knocking out the tank. But if you're in, let's say, an American medium tank, they're also quite low. Don't go for an upper glacis shot, because that will just bounce. There's no gun in this game that will penetrate 185, 190 millimeters of armor angled at a 60 degree angle. And neither is this low glacis a good shot. You won't get through that, no chance. What you'd stand a chance at is that if you aim for, let's get rid of the armor layout. If you aim for these viewports here and the machine gun port, right to the left and the right of the gun barrel, you might stand a chance of penetrating the turret. And you might also have a good chance of knocking out the tank by hitting the turret up here. Provided that your ammunition that you're using have some kind of explosive, high explosive filler. So yeah, you can see here it's about 125 millimeters thick, the commander's cupola, and you have the gunner's cupola, and it's a little bit better sloped at around 160 millimeters. So really, you don't have much of an option against this thing in a head-on duel. You might want to go for the gun and try to hope for a good angle so that your penetrating shot will just go straight down the barrel and knock out the tank by going straight through the gun mantlet and then continuing into the tank, hitting the ammo rack back here, probably even killing the gunner and the commander right there, and possibly even injuring the loader. But really, your best bet of knocking out the T-54 is to hit it in the side, just like the IS-3. Hit it in the hull and try to avoid hitting these upper storage bins, pit parts, or the roll wheels, or the tracks. And just go for this area here, where you have nothing to divert the shot. And this plating here is non-sloped, as you can see here if you have a look at it from the side. It's not angled at all, so basically any cannon at rank 5 will get straight through this. You might have some luck penetrating the T-54 if you go for the turret at the side shot. Most cannons will get through this, but you might get the odd bounce as well. So if you have a chance, try to stay aim low for the T-54. Looking at it from the back, you have an engine shot here. Same as with the IS-3, this engine will eat up any kind of shot that hit it from behind. You will probably cause a fire in the fuel tanks and such, so that will disrupt the tank, but it won't knock it out. What you want to aim for is this unsloped bit here, right here at the back of the turret. If you hit that, it's game over for the T-54. You have the ammo rack here, and with only 65 millimeters of armor protecting it at the back here, you will knock out the tank, no problem. But other than that, yeah, if you're a big tank with a lot of height added to it, try to aim for the left side of the hull so that you will hit the ammo rack and the fuel tank up here. But unless you're a tall tank, just try to get around this thing, or just wait for the T-54 to try to get around you and fire low at it. That should knock out the tank. So what kind of stuff do you hit if you aim low at the side shot for this thing? Well, if you hit it up here in the front, you will knock out the tank by hitting fuel tanks and ammo racks. Right here, right below the turret, you will hit ammo racks. You also have ammo racks up here. You have another fuel tank here and ammo rack back there, and right behind the ammo racks you have crew compartments, so you will probably knock out crewmen as well. One more thing when it comes to Russian armor, or maybe it has something to do with large caliber German guns rather. I've heard a rumor about the Jagdtiger and HE ammo for the Jagdtiger's gun. Let's just double check this and see if it does really have a spring or not. Yeah, it does. It doesn't have all that much penetration at the meager 43 millimeters, but since it's such a high caliber gun with a large diameter sitting at 128 millimeter, this thing will actually penetrate the bottom of the T-54. The bottom of the T-54 is only 20 millimeters thick, so I've heard people talking about that you can actually, if you are this close to a T-54 and you're using Jagdtiger, the mouse doesn't have HE ammo for its 128 millimeter gun, but if you're in a Jagdtiger, you might aim for the ground here and fire a HE shell down into the ground, and that will knock out the T-54 with the explosive power of the shell from under it. Let's just double check the IS-3 to see if we can get some kind of intel on how thick the bottom plate is. Very hard to see here. Actually, I don't get any kind of information, but I kind of doubt that it will be all that thick. Actually, nope, that's the yeah, but I think that you can actually knock out Russian heavy tanks and T-54s by using that tactic in the Jagdtiger. So over to the IS-4. Let's have a closer look at that. I'm gonna go over to the preview here. So let's say you're facing a IS-4 in a head-on duel. What do you do to counter it, or how can you knock it out? Well, you have, I would say, 3, maybe 4 tops weak spots that you could go for. And looking at the lower glacis, yeah, you're probably not gonna penetrate that lower glacis plate unless the IS-4 is actually crossing a ridge or something and you get a clean shot at it from below. That's a really good area to hit, but you want to hit this yellow bit, not the applique armor right here. What I do know does actually work from time to time is to try to angle for this rather flat bit here on the driver's hatch. You can see here it's not really sloped. It's 32 degree in angle, and if you have a large caliber gun you should get through this, but any other place on the hull, just forget about it. You know, 61 degrees of angling here on the upper glacis, and on the sides, yeah, it's just a no-go zone for a shot. What you might go for if you face this thing in head-on duel, you might go for the machine gun port here on the side and the vision port for the gunner here right next to the mouse cursor here on the left. Those are small target zones, but they're rather unarmored, and if you hit that you can get through. Other than that, the gun mantlet is very hard to penetrate. As you can see here, pretty well protected. You can also go for a Robin Hood shot on the gun barrel, try to hit the barrel right in the hole and knock out the tank in that way. Looking at this thing from the side, yeah, it's the same story as with the other Soviet tank. Try to go for a low shot here. You have roughly 165, 175 millimeters of armor to get through, since this thing does actually have some applique armor here on Schürzen. Avoid hitting this bit here, since it's a bit better angle than this thing, or this bit here, which is non-angle. I have had cases where I have actually penetrated the turret from the side but that has been at this kind of angle. And I've been using, let's see now, I think I was using the T32 actually, and I knocked out the IS-4 that way. And what did I hit when I hit it here? Oh, I knocked out the hammer racks, and I think actually I hit the thing here, and that would actually knock out this ammo storage, and then loader and commander, and probably even the gunner, and the tank would essentially be combat ineffective at that time, since it would only have one crewman left, and the driver can't do everything in the tank. He can't spot targets and drive and fire at the same time, so the tank is actually rendered unfit for combat at that stage. And yeah, you can also hit the radiators, fuel tanks, engines from the side back here, transmission right here. From the back, as you could see there's a huge ammo storage on the right side, so I would definitely try to go for a shot like that. Might even also go for an engine shot or a radiator shot up here, since the tank is a little less angled at these bits and a bit thinly armored. Definitely consider going for a shot like that. And as you can see here, this tank doesn't really have cupolas for the crews, so when facing this thing in a head-on duel, you don't have any kind of cupolas to aim for that aren't sloped more than 60. Oh, actually it's 52 degrees angling, but you see here at the effective thickness, it sits around 500 millimeters, and there's nothing that's gonna get through that. And this bit, the top of the turret, is also a no-go zone, since it's too angled to be able to penetrate. So this is auto balance if you fire at this bit up here. Unlike in World of Tanks, where you can actually penetrate tanks by hitting this bit. But this video isn't about World of Tanks, it's about rank 5 tanks on the Russian 3. So let's move over to something a little bit easier to penetrate. The ISU 152, and well, I don't want to test drive it, I want to customize it, since I do actually own this tank. And yeah, where can't you fire at this thing to knock it out? Well, pretty much, yeah, if you hit these bits up here, you won't knock out the tank, but any other place here, it will probably knock out the tank at rank 5. So that was a quick walkthrough. And at the side, yeah, it's pretty non-sloped, doesn't really have all that much protection. And at the back it's the same story, so let's have a look at the X-ray. You have the ammo storages here, low here, all the crew is basically in the main fighting compartment of the gun, and they're surrounded by either fuel tanks or ammunition, so you really have to be unlucky in order to not knock out this tank. So that's an easy one. Looking at the SU-122, this thing is rather different than the ISU-152. This thing does actually have some substantial angling of the armor, and even though this is seen as a green zone, it does only have 100 millimeters of thickness on the armor. The effective thickness is a different story, and it's sitting at 150, 145. But what we're forgetting at this moment is that the sloping on the armor is very good. It's an angle at 50 degrees and roughly 41 degrees here on the side. And this thing will probably bounce shots that if you aim for this upper glacis part here, even though it's thinly armored. And why, would you ask? Well, let's have a look at let's remember that this thing does have an effective thickness of 150 roughly millimeters of armor, okay, at an angling of 50 degrees. So let's have a look at the Jag tires ammunition. We're let's go for the Panzergranat 43 here. And if you're looking down at the distance and the angle of attack down there, you can see that if the angle of attack is 60 degrees, this ammunition will only penetrate 101 millimeters of armor at 10 meters. So that's the best case. And if the armor is angled at a 30-degree angle, you have a better chance of penetrating really. But the angling of the armor on the SU-122 was 50 degrees, and I would say that shot penetration value would probably be around 150 at best. So at 1,000 meters, I don't think you'll penetrate with this gun hitting the front armor on the SU-122. So no, neither of this munition types will go through. So how about the 105 Tiger II? Will that have any? No, it's substantially less penetration. Yeah, really. So at longer ranges, let's go back to the Russian tree. So at longer ranges, the SU-122 will probably bounce shells if it gets hit at the upper glacis. And at the lower glacis, you should probably avoid trying to hit that, because the angling of the armor is so it's substantial, sitting at 55 degrees. So yeah, how do you knock this thing out in a head-on duel? I would actually go for the gun mantlet. Like, if you look at here, this piece of armor around the gun barrel, the gun mantlet, it's not thicker than 122 millimeters at best, and it's not really on that angle. So if you go for the gun mantlet, you will probably knock out the tank. You can also go for the cupolas up here. That's probably a good bet if you have explosive filler on the tank. A side shot on this thing will knock out the tank, period. There's no other way to it. It will knock out the tank, so we're not going to bother all that much with that. And a rear shot on this thing will also knock out the tank. So let's have a look at the components inside. Yeah, as you can see here, a side shot will definitely knock out the tank, hitting either bit of the ammo. So if you go for a gun mantlet shot, aiming for this bit, you might hit the ammunition back here. In fact, you'll probably hit the ammunition and you'll injure the loader or the gunner or the loader back here. Oh, it does actually have two loaders, cool. So one loader for each part of the munition, I would guess. You might also knock out the driver, loader, commander, and then hit the ammo rack after that. And after that, it's just game over for this tank. So go for the gun mantlet. That's my recommendation if you're facing this thing in a head-on duel. Try not to hit the upper glacis or the lower glacis. So, last tank for this video, looking at the CSU-57-2, where do you not want to hit this thing to knock it out? Well, yeah, you'll probably knock it out. You might want to avoid over-penetrating this thing by using APCR ammo, heat ammo, or APCR ammo when firing at this thing. You're much better off really firing HE if you can penetrate the gun shield here or the side of the turret, since it's not really armored all that well. Basically, if you're firing normal AP rounds, you should knock this thing out, considering that anywhere on the turret is a ammo rack storage unit for this tank. So either you'll hit ammo racks or you'll hit crewmen or cannon breach for that matter, and that will more or less disable the tank. So this is an easy one in a duel, but please do mind these 57mm high velocity armor piercing firing cannons. They will wreck your tank if you're not careful, so you really want to get the first shot off on this tank. You better hope that you knock this thing out with your first shot, because if you don't, and if you just have a no effective shot on it, or a bounce, God forbid, you will be in serious trouble, because this thing will knock out your gun, it will detrack you, and then it will go around you on the side and start picking off components inside your tank, so avoid that. So guys, that was really all I had to say about the Russian rank 5 heavy tanks and the weak spots on them. I hope that you have found this video educational and entertaining at the same time, and be on the lookout for rank 5 videos for the Germans and the American tanks coming out sometime soon. So thank you for watching, guys. I've been Corpen Flyger, and I'll see you guys around.